It's pretty wild to think that a law from 1881, we're talking over 140 years ago, is still a cornerstone of modern business. It's called the Negotiable Instruments Act, and it solves a huge problem in commerce that even our fancy instant payment apps haven't totally figured out. So let's dive in and break down how this old school law works and why it's still so incredibly important today. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with a big headache, credit. Then we'll look at the seriously elegant solution the law came up with. We'll explore the two main tools it gives us. And finally, we'll get into the real magic, how a simple piece of paper with a promise on it can be passed around like currency. So first things first, what's the actual problem we're trying to solve here? Well, cash is easy, right? You give me money, I give you stuff. Done. But that's not how the real world of business works. Almost everything runs on credit. And believe me, that's where things get messy and fast. I mean, really think about it. When you buy a laptop on a payment plan, you're just the very first domino. How does the money you owe eventually make its way all the way back up the chain to the people who supplied the raw silicon for the chips? This is exactly what that chain reaction looks like. Let's say a customer, Rahul, buys something on credit from a retailer, Raj. Okay, so now Raj is waiting on money from Rahul. But Raj owes money to his wholesaler, Devdas. And of course, Devdas owes the distributor, who owes the manufacturer, who probably owes a raw materials supplier. It's just a massive, tangled web of IOUs, all set off by one single purchase. So how on earth do you manage this chaos? You can't just have everyone sitting around waiting for the person below them in the chain to pay up. The solution is something called a negotiable instrument. And it's a genius idea that basically turns a debt into a physical asset that you can pass around. So what is a negotiable instrument? At its heart, it's really just a special kind of written promise. It's a formal, legally binding document for a specific amount of money. But, and this is the absolute key, it's designed to be easily transferred from one person to another. The name itself actually tells you everything you need to know. Negotiable is just a fancy word for transferable. An instrument, that just means it's a written legal document. So you put them together and you've got a transferable legal document. See? Simple. Now, the law sets out three main types of these instruments. There's the promissory note, the bill of exchange, and of course the one we all know, the check. For now, we're going to focus on the first two because they really show off the power of this whole system. Let's kick things off with the most straightforward one, the promissory note. You can think of this as a direct, legally binding IOU. It's a formal written promise from the person who owes money to the person they owe it to. So, going back to our example, Rahul, the customer, would give a note that says something like this to Raj, the retailer. It's totally clear and unconditional. It says exactly who gets paid, how much they get paid, and when they'll get it. This isn't some casual note, it's a rock-solid legal promise. In this simple setup, you've only got two main players. Rahul, who owes the money, is called the maker because, well, he's the one making the promise. And Raj, the one who's supposed to get the money, is the payee. He's the one who will be paid. Easy enough. Okay, so here's where it gets really clever. What if Raj, the retailer, needs to use the money Rahul owes him to pay his own supplier, Devdas? That's where the bill of exchange comes into play. And notice the shift. This isn't a promise anymore, it's an order. Just look at how different the wording is here. This time, it's Raj, the creditor, who creates the document. And he's not promising to do anything. Instead, he is ordering his debtor, Rahul, to pay the money directly to his own creditor, Devdas. He's basically rerouting the payment to settle his own debt. So now we've got a third person involved. Raj is the drawer, because he's drawing up the order. Rahul is the drawee, he's the one being told to pay, and Devdas, the wholesaler who actually gets the cash in the end, is still the payee. This is so powerful because it lets the money skip a step, making the whole supply chain way more efficient. So we've seen how these bits of paper can create and redirect promises to pay. But how do they actually get negotiated or passed from one person to the next? It all comes down to a really simple but very important legal action. And that action is called endorsement. It's literally as simple as it sounds. You sign the back of the document. So if Raj is holding that promissory note from Rahul, he can just flip it over, write, pay to Devdas, and sign his name. That simple signature legally transfers his right to collect that money over to Devdas. So the process is a piece of cake. Raj has the note, he endorses it over to Devdas, and then he just physically hands it to him. And just like that, Devdas becomes the new legal owner of that promise. So when the payment is due, it's Devdas, not Raj, who shows up to collect the money from Rahul. The promise has officially been passed on. Now, there are basically two flavors these instruments come in. An order instrument, like the one we just talked about, is made out to a specific person. To transfer it, you need to both sign it, endorse it, and hand it over. But a bearer instrument is way simpler. It's payable to whoever is physically holding it at the time. It's almost like cash. You just hand it to someone and it's theirs. No signature needed. So you see, the Negotiable Instruments Act does something amazing. It takes a simple written promise, a static IOU, and transforms it into a dynamic, flowing financial tool. It creates this trusted, reliable system that allows debt to move fluidly through the economy, basically keeping the gears of commerce greased and turning. But it does make you wonder, right? In a world of Venmo, crypto, and instant bank transfers, why do we still care about a 140-year-old law that's all about paper? Well, I think the answer is in the core principles it established. Things like clarity, legal certainty, and transferability. Those ideas are just as critical for business today as they were way back in 1881.